What's up, everybody? Welcome back to This Weird House. I am Nick Boddick. I am Nick, having 3 weeks behind on a haircut, Nick Boddick, this time around. And I am here with a guy I have known for years and who played no small part in my own popularity on No Sleep, the legendary MrCreepyPasta. How are you, sir?
Hey man, thanks for having me on. I'm doing good. My morning's just started, so you've caught me at the freshest I could possibly
That's
be.
perfect. Hopefully, we'll catch you off guard and get some exclusives from you.
Oh God. Oh no.
No, man, like it's crazy. Like I was thinking about it earlier today. I've known you for like a long time. I mean, known you. Like we've had pretty much
Yeah.
just a business relationship, but like you've always been such a good friend to like the horror community,
No.
man, especially like No Sleep and fucking
Oh
you
yeah.
played a big part in a lot of people's
No.
like writing careers, man. It's awesome.
I was say you've known me. Like you're on my Facebook, so you see all my personal stuff too. You don't just
That
see
is
my
true. That
my
is true. Yeah.
YouTube things.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Um Hell yeah, man. But I just kind of wanted to, like I was saying before, I just want to go into like you as
Yeah.
you and horror. So what made you get into, give me like the history of Mr. Creepypasta. Where did you start and how did you evolve to the monolith that Mr. Creepypasta
Wow.
is now?
um. Okay. Well. So I've been doing this about 13 years. I think I started doing this when I was in college. Yeah, I started doing this when I was in college. Um, and really, it was so I was working at like AT&T at the time, and the job really sucks. Like, let me tell you, like, so I was doing like over the phone technical support, and that job really, really sucks because like, if anybody's done like call center jobs, like like it's a really high turnover rate. It's a shitty job, but like, the job I was doing in particular because it was tech support, it's a job where like everything that goes wrong becomes your fault. So it's like it's a really kind of bad thing. So in between calls, like you always try to find like a way to like chill a bit, and you get 2 minutes. That's it. So it became kind of my thing is like searching over. I think I was at the time I was using like X on 4chan and like reading over scary stories on the paranormal forum. And then after that, like I think people there posted like the creepypasta website, creepypasta.com, and then I started reading stuff there. Um, so I started doing those like just at work, and I really liked it. And at the time, the creepypasta website was being sold off for something like the domain name was being sold, and a lot of authors there and in the forum they had at the time were commenting about how like, oh well, it's over, it's finished, everything's gonna die, it's like it's gonna be bought out by some kind of random domain that's gonna like dismantle the whole
Yeah.
site. So I was like, well, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna start doing recordings of these stories and like kind of preserve them,
Oh, okay.
like as these audiobook things. So I started doing that on YouTube, and it was really bad. I think like at the time I was like, me and my girlfriend my college girlfriend were like splitting, and I was like, "Yo, this is a fun thing. You like horror too? Like we can do this together." And she like listens to it, and she was like, "This is really bad. Like you need to stop doing this." I was like, oh shit, okay." But like I come back to it after a couple of months, and like people are listening. People are like, "Oh, where'd he go? Oh, he wanted to do more." So I was like, "Well, okay, I guess I'll just start doing more." So I just start randomly like recording new stories every so often when I get off work because like I would work till I think I get home at like 1 o'clock in the morning, and then I'd be like, well, I'm just gonna do stories now until like 6 a.m. Then I have to go to bed, and then I get up at 1 p.m. the next day to go back to work. Um, and like I just started getting into that cycle of doing it, and I don't know how at some point like I was out of college, and I get contacted by a multi-channel network that was like, hey, um, we want to sign you up, and like don't like as anybody starting on YouTube, like just like as advice to anybody else, don't just immediately sign up with the first multi-channel network that contacts you, like period, don't make my mistakes. Yeah, they messaged me and they're like, hey, like we want to sign you up, you can make money doing this. And then like they like send me this contract, and in the contract it gives an estimated number of what you can do with it, and it's not realistic. It's not realistic at all. But like, I'm fresh out of college, and I just see a number, and I'm like,
Of course. Yeah.
"Yo, yeah, this could be my job." And my parents didn't like it, but
Naturally.
like, yeah, my dad was like, maybe don't. But I took it. I quit my job, and I dedicated myself to doing YouTube. And I mean, with a shit ton of luck, it worked out for me. I was able to do that as my job. And in doing so, like, I don't know, I met like really great guys like you. I met like all these people in the horror community. When it comes down to writers, it comes down to audience, it comes down to other content creators on YouTube. I met like this really great community of people. They really kind of like helped me grow my channel, helped me grow myself, and like, dude, like I don't know, it was like this magic that kind of like takes over from what it was from like, because I never was into horror until I was in college,
Oh yeah,
and
yeah. I
then
was gonna
all of a
ask you
sudden,
that if you
yeah,
were
I
like a
get brought into
lifelong
this. Like,
fan or.
it's amazing. No, I've always wanted to be into horror. My mom is from Taiwan, so she has a very, what's the word I'm looking for here? A very strict, I guess. Not. It's just a very interesting view when it comes down to horror and spirituality. When it comes
Mm-hmm.
that kind of thing, so she doesn't like anything that even has a shiny knife in it. So she was like, no horror, no horror stuff. I don't want any horror on the TVs. So I didn't start watching horror movies till I left for college, and then I was like, I'm gonna pick up a horror movie. I'm gonna watch The Grudge. I'm gonna watch The Ring. I'm gonna watch Friday the
You had
13th. I want
18
to watch all
years
these
of
things.
catching up to do.
Yeah.
Man, that's crazy. And like, how does she feel about what you do now? Or like what you've been
Oh,
doing for the last 13 years?
I mean, she's my mom, so like she
For sure.
supports me. She's happy that I'm happy. And anytime I have stuff, like I think she came to my tour we did in 2019, and she was in the audience, so she sat and watched me perform, and she bought a T-shirt and and a poster. She didn't have to do it because she knows I'm going to give it to her, but she bought these things. And then she put them into a drawer so she doesn't have to look at them because she thinks they're scary. But she bought them and she keeps them in the house inside of a
That's
drawer.
adorable, dude. Like that is like top tier mom shit right there.
I think the only thing that she bought that she like actually displays in my stuff is she bought the little stuffed animal.
Oh no,
She's like, "This is
yeah,
cute. I'll keep the stuffed
that's
animal
safe enough
out."
to have out.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. Like it's the same with my mom, my grandma. My book came out, Daughter's Drawings. Buy it. It's on Amazon right now. It's part of the indie horror, bro. Like they both bought the ebook, the paperback, and the hardcover, and I'm like, I have like a million copies set
That's
aside just for
cool.
you guys, and they're
Yeah.
like, no, we wanted to pay for it. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. I was probably gonna ask you for money soon anyway, so that works out. um
But here's the thing: have they read it?
my mom has, my grandma has a TBR pile taller than the house, and like she was straight up with me. She was like, I don't switch around. Like I have the order that I got these books that I'm gonna read them in, and like you're not special, Nick. Like
That's it.
I'm like, yeah, it's fine. I'm not. Like
That's
my book is
it.
probably the worst one out of the pile. So like I get it.
Wow. No, I was saying, like, your family's super supportive of the horror writing. Then they're also into
Yeah,
horror
I
like you
mean,
are.
like, but they definitely had their reservations when I started, but I think, like, obviously, like with you too. But I think that once they saw that I actually was starting to like pick up some steam, and then once I actually did start making money from it, they were like, "Oh, okay, so
Yeah.
this." And I think the fact that, because I mean, so like not to get into a whole thing, but like I have bipolar, and the way my bipolar manifests is that I get like, I guess they call it delusions of grandeur. So like I would start stuff and be like, oh, okay, I'm gonna
I
buy
feel
this
you.
$210 tattoo machine. I'm gonna be the world's next great tattoo artist, despite having no artistic ability whatsoever. And like it's like shit like that. So like I imagine they never said this, but like I imagine that when I started like writing horror, they're like, okay, this is just another thing he's gonna do. And I know I had unrealistic expectations at first. Like when I started, I was like, all right, I'm gonna start, like this will be my job. And like I was
Yeah.
like, I had like one popular story on No Sleep, and I was like, all right, foot's in the door. I'm gonna just take over now. And obviously that didn't happen. I mean, I guess it kind of happened with No Sleep. I was the
I
man
was
around
saying
there
you
for a
became
minute.
really pop. Yeah.
But like No Sleep popularity equals $0 in money. So you know,
I don't know. I've heard tell of quite a few different film studios that come through and buying
I mean,
options
okay, so yeah, you're
for
right. You're
other
right. I don't
authors.
want to take away from the people who did that. I guess I should say like no sleep doesn't equal sales. I should
Yeah,
say.
yeah, that's
And there
absolutely
have
true.
been like film options, but you will notice, and I guess after the option, it's kind of out of the writer's hand, and it doesn't matter. They already got paid, but like none of those movies
Yeah,
have ever been made, which
that's
sucks. I would love
oh
to see
man,
them.
I don't. Yeah,
Like,
I don't know. Like if I like can talk about that, get too much into that, but yeah, that's a heartbreaking thing. That's like always feels like because you feel so good. You wrote something and get so much attention, and
mm-hmm.
then like oh, a film studio wants to make it into a movie, and then they just don't. They just basically take it away from you for 10 years.
Yeah, pretty much.
Like you can't do anything with it, and like you're just waiting. Like, well, you guys were interested, and like, oh yeah,
And
please, dude, like
yeah,
do something.
right, yeah, and like for me, like I don't know if anybody really knows this, but like Daughter's Drawings, the story itself was actually optioned back in like
Oh
2017. I sold it for like 3 grand, something 3 grand, something like that. Very small studio, and the rights were only they only had the rights for 2 years, and like it was. I had someone else read the contract who knows contracts, and they were like, okay, this means that if they don't do anything with it by this time, then it goes back to you. So I was like, okay, cool. And I did that. Luckily, I did that, not one of the bigger ones, because then I wouldn't have my book now, obviously. But
mhm.
yeah, like and as you can see, nothing happened with it. Like
Well,
once they
that's
had the
just sucks,
options, like
dude. That
that was
is
it. And now that the story is popular again, I actually have had a couple of people reach out. Nothing concrete yet or anything. I still have all the rights.
yeah.
Anybody who wants them, let me know. um, but yeah, man. Yeah, I'm not trying to take anything away from the people who have
Oh
sold
no,
stuff. Like it's
yeah.
awesome that they have. Like, I mean, I'm always supportive of other authors, especially like from No Sleep. But every time someone does something, I'm like, God damn it, that should have been me. Like there's that little part. I'm only human.
No, yeah. That yeah, exactly. Yeah, that little bit of green in you
For
is just like,
sure, for sure. That jealousy. I'm just like,
oh.
all right. But then at the
Yeah.
end of the day, I'm like, nah, man. Like a win for him or her is a
Yeah.
win for all of us. Because, like,
Yeah.
I I feel bad saying this. I have kind of been on the anti no sleep wagon for a few years now. Yeah,
Really?
like,
Is it the rules changes, I'm
yeah,
assuming?
that's why. It's like,
Yeah. A lot of people eventually come and go based off of like the rules decisions, moderation
yeah,
decisions.
and I don't want to get sound too much like a back in
Yeah, of
my
course.
day,
Yeah.
like, but like I really
Yeah.
feel like we were the golden age, like when it was like me, not like not to toot my own horn again, but like when I was around, it was like C.K.
Yeah.
Walker, Felix Blackwell, so or I guess I
Uh,
could better do it by stories. Pen Pal, Romantic Cabin Getaway, Baraska, like all the heavy hitters came
yeah.
out in that like 3 year period from like 2014 to 2018 ish. And it's not to
Yeah.
say that there's not. I mean, there's still great stories being posted today. But yeah, as a writer myself, like I just they started like it just got narrower and narrower as the years went on, and it's once they started trying to define horror that was like the last straw for me. That pissed me off.
Yeah. Yeah. I know what you mean. And like there's a lot of authors that I talk to now that talk about like I'll say like when it comes down to it, like scouting on No Sleep for stories, like just for like MCP stuff, um, I will hand off to like other people a lot of the time, and it becomes more and more difficult. I rely more now on my relationships with existing
Hmm.
authors and buying stories from them directly, than I do scouting stories on No Sleep and trying to find new authors, which is kind of sad, because like I want to find new
Right.
authors. At the end of the day, like I've said, like after maybe the first 3 years or 4 years when I tried to find out what the channel really was, um, I think that was where I kind of defined like I think this channel could be a platform for unpublished or self-published authors. That's really what I wanted it to
Yeah.
be, because like it has a platform of a young audience that want to be into horror, and giving them new avenues to be able to do so is like I can be able to help other people to do
Yeah.
that.
That's awesome.
And yeah, and I like being able to do that, but like it, I guess because of the way that No Sleep's structured, it doesn't like encourage new people as
No.
much as it does encourage a specific format. So off of that, like, yeah, there's some really great people out there. I still find new authors that I work with, but it's few and far between now compared to what it was, say, 5 years ago.
Right, you had your pick of the litter back in the day.
Well, yeah, because everybody was posting new horror. I mean, like, it creates its own problems also, which means, like, back then, yeah, I'd find a lot more people because everybody's posting different ideas from all over, but it also dilutes it a lot more because there's just a lot more to just
For
crap.
sure.
You know, like, there's a 150 word post that's just on there that, like, oh, I got attacked by the poop man. And, like, you know, like, well, there's no moderation to that, so, like, poop man is perfectly acceptable. But, like, now poop man's not allowed, so I'm not, like, my scout to me, I'm not going to run into poop man stories. But I also don't run into it if it turned out somebody wanted to write poop man and it's, like, actually, like, a really funny comedy horror story. And it could have been something that, like, the audience ate up because it was like, that's a hilarious thing, and he actually has good concepts when it comes down to writing horror. I would never see it because, like, it's not allowed to show up anymore. And that's kind of, remember I said I have unpopular opinions about horror. I would the people who do the scout for me, my scout usually does know that I have unpopular opinions. So if they saw, like, a story and they're like poop man, they'd be like, yeah, I'll send it this way. I'm just gonna see what he says, and, like, because, like, they know I'll be like, oh, that's funny, I'll do it. Like, sure. I will. My unpopular opinion is that, like, horror doesn't have to be scary all the time, and I think that horror does better when it's not scary all the time. Also, like, I love bad horror so much. Yeah, I think horror does better if it's not scary all the time. If you write a tense story that's consistently tension, then the exhaustion comes out, like, eventually I want the payoff to be. Now, if I give you, like snippets of, like, funny in the little bits of the story, that tension goes away, and then when the horror hits you again, like, oh man, I wasn't expecting that to happen. I was just laughing about that guy. Why did he get disemboweled in front of me? You know, like, you know, that's the thing. I really like that. Also, I just love bad horror. When things are like cornball, like
shitty No Sleep.
That shit up, dude. Yeah, dude, I eat up it's shitty so No Sleep sometimes. Dude. Okay, I love it.
It's funny for sure. But no, you know, I actually don't totally disagree with you, really. Like, it. Really? There's definitely, in writing, it's definitely, you have to find a balance, because you're right. Like, if it's constantly, there needs to be, like, a way down, I guess. Like, you need to be down here so you can get to up here. If you're always up here, then, like, if the entire thing is tense and none of it's tense, kind of thing.
That's
sort of.
Exactly.
I don't know. I don't feel like I'm explaining it very well, but, like, yeah, no, I get what you mean. Like, I learned a lot about that actually from Felix, who wrote Romantic Cabin Getaway, Stolen Tongues.
It's such a good story.
Oh, dude, it's like still my favorite.
I feel like not enough people, like, pick up on that story. I think that was such.
It's still my favorite No Sleep story of all time. Like, that one, that changed the game for me, dude. Like, that and Pen Pal, which Pen Pal is everybody's favorites for good reason. Dathan is the man. But yeah, no, Felix helped me tremendously, a huge help on Daughter's Drawings. He, like, wrote this whole like basically an essay for me on, like, how to, like, structure a novel, and that was a section of it that was like, make sure you have, like, kind of periods for the reader to kind of cool down, because then when you get back into it, you can really hit them hard, and it's going to hit that much harder. And I was like, that was good advice. And I've actually gotten comments on Daughter's Drawings about that, how the, like, kind of the false sense of security. And so I'm like, all right, well, I guess Felix knows what he's doing. Speaking of, you know, comedy, horror in general, like, subgenres, do you have certain, I guess you may have just answered this, like, certain types of stories you like narrating more than others, like, for like a specific reason? Like, I like doing this kind of story because I can do this while I'm narrating, sort of thing.
Not really. Like, I mean, like, I like any story that lets me play around with characters. I think that's why I like Tales from the Gas Station, Jack Townsend. I like doing his stories a lot because he lets me have a lot of freedom when it comes down to the characters that I do. I think there's only been maybe 2 times he's ever been like, "Don't do a character like that." I was like, "Okay." And also because it's comedy, I get to like mess around with like what I want the character to be. Like the egg-shaped woman, I think was the most wild character he gave me, like in the first book, because like I just did Raz from Monsters Inc. and he was like, "That's good." I'm like, "Okay, I'm in,
That's
yeah."
awesome.
Like I want to do that. And like he let me do like Larry the Cable Guy for a couple of characters and things like those are like the most fun ones that I get to do. But like when it comes to like subgenres for horror, like I enjoy doing like dark humor stories. I think Tales like Jack Townsend gets that one. Vincent Venicava, he gets those a lot too. Like some really good ones. Like Vincent's already given me like one of his latest books, which I don't know if I could talk about, but I will because like I want people to be hyped about his book. He has a book called Gas Station Dick Pills coming out, and
That's
it
awesome.
is exactly what it sounds like. Yeah,
That
like
rules.
a guy takes gas station dick pills, and then like his dick becomes a monster. So like I kind of hype about it,
Like
but like
that
yeah, that's
non-ironically
like
sounds good. Like that, there's a
that's
good
like
concept there for sure.
there's like a cornball level to it that like I do like, but like other genres and stuff, I come and go. Like things that I'm into at the time will make me like I want to do some more like this.
Yeah,
I think Dale Drake is a writer I work with a lot. I don't think he's ever posted to No Sleep, but
I know
he's
Dale.
yeah,
Mhm.
Dale. He's really good at like just feeling out what I'm feeling at the time because I know like he's writing a lot of different series is on the channel right now, but one of them is like City of Midnight, and I was like, I just want to do something that's a little bit cyberpunky, and he's like, cool. So he sends me like City of Midnight, and now it's like this cyberpunk vampire story that he's doing, and like. I always want to do sci-fi, and he's like, "Cool," and he sends me Uridius, which is like this xenomorph aliens kind of story that's really cool. So he has a really good way of just feeling out whatever I'm into at the time, which I like. I don't know. I've kind of like said most people I work with just kind of like learn who I am as a person, and then they're like, okay, cool. I'm just gonna feel out whatever you're doing right now, and I'm just gonna give you something that's based off
Yeah,
that.
for sure. Hell yeah, dude. Like it's. I mean, you're one of. I've let people translate my stories over the last few years because I mean, obviously, I haven't
Oh,
posted in No
cool.
Sleep. It's been years since I posted over there. But I still get messages from people all the time asking if they can narrate like the story from like 2018 or whatever.
Yeah.
And the only ones I let do it are people who want to translate it to another language just because it looks good on a resume to be like, my work has been translated into like 19 languages, which I think I've actually crossed 20 at this point. Like, I've had like my shit
Yo,
in like, thanks, man.
congratulations.
Like, it's just like, it's ultimately meaningless, really, but like, my shit is in like Romanian and like,
No, but still, that's
yeah, right. It
cool.
just sounds cool. And I like shit that sounds cool. But you're one of maybe three people in the last 5 years to narrate a story of mine. Um,
Really?
yeah, yeah.
That's that.
Back
Okay.
in the day, it
Dang.
was free for all. If somebody wanted it, they can have it. Um, but and then I mean, there was that whole like the no sleep blackout. Do you remember when that happened?
Yeah, I
Yeah, and
remember.
like
Yep, no
the
sleep blackout.
watchdogs. I don't know if those guys are still
I
doing their thing or not, but like
I
it was a
don't know
huge.
about that one, but I know about it.
Yeah, like for the people who
Yeah.
don't know what I'm talking about, like there was a huge problem with like content theft in the no sleep world, and you
Yeah.
obviously were never a part of that. But there were a few like big name. I'm not gonna say anybody, but like big name narrators that like who were just straight up taking people's shit and claiming credit for it, which was crazy. Like, and I was uh for coincidentally the fact that we're talking now, like for the past like 3 weeks or so, I usually listen to audiobooks while I'm at work, but I couldn't find one, so I started listening to like classic creepypasta narrations, and of course you were in there, but like there were so many I saw that are just the title of the story and then by and the name of the narrator, and I'm like, no, I know who wrote this
Oh, what?
story and it's not this person. And it's people who aren't around anymore, and like they haven't posted new videos in a few
Yeah.
years, and I assume that's why. But I'm just like, damn, dude, like it really used to be just like the Wild West like that. People would just
Oh,
take
yeah.
all sorts of shit,
Absolutely.
and
Well, that was like also the thing, like I mentioned back in creepypasta.com, right? That was back when authors never really signed their names on
Mm-hmm.
stories. Back on 4chan, the paranormal forum, it was anonymous board, so you couldn't
Yeah.
put your name on things. It was the whole point of it was like everything's anonymous. Um, so like when I got started, yeah, that was like one of those things. Like I always put links back to the original stories because like I felt like it was, if I'm doing the way I viewed what I was doing was like doing a radio show or doing an audio book or something like that. So I always put like authors' names on there. I put links back to the original stories, but like I know there was quite a bit that got started after I did
Yeah.
that didn't. Like I think like the formatting of it just always became like what YouTubers eventually became, which is like using it like a video game, where I just put down like this is the name of the game I'm playing and that's it. Like I wouldn't put down, like I'm playing Mario Party by
You're
Nintendo.
right.
So people would just assume that like that's the way it's going to go. But this is a different kind of media that we're creating. And I think especially when like so many people got into it, they were like younger, like teenagers starting to be able to do that. They didn't know what they were gonna do. Like hell, like when I got started, I didn't know what the hell I was doing.
Yeah.
Like I don't know what the rules are. There wasn't really a rule set. There was no real precedent for how this is going to go, so it got out of hand to the point where it kind of just exploded, and that's what ended up happening with the blackout. I think now there's a lot more regulation with how it takes with like how things are done, how things take place. But I'll tell you one thing. I usually make a whole lot about like my content is like free for anybody to use.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to like do animations over it, you can do animations over it. If you want to use it for like play it over gameplay, play it on stream, go ahead and play whatever you want to do. Just make sure that you like use the original story links and stuff like that off of my stuff. I always make all that free. With like TikTok right now, Instagram Reels, I get a lot of stuff tagging me that's just like they just rip the video and they just put it up in chunks onto TikTok
Mm-hmm.
or they put it up in chunks on Instagram. And like they just like because like I'm not gonna go back on what I said. Like you want to use my stuff, you just use my audio. I don't
Yeah.
care. But like I just see like this is just gonna happen again, man. This is what's gonna happen on Instagram. It's gonna happen on TikTok
Uh-huh.
with the AI voices and things like that.
Man.
People using those, it's just turning into the same thing. Like people wanting to make content farms out of those and using AI voices, it's just gonna happen again. People stealing content, and it's unfortunate. But like as that's just what's going to take place. Like regulations need to go in over these new platforms and stuff, and that's gonna be one of those things. Like we'll just see what happens.
Yeah, no,
But
dude,
like,
like, because
yeah,
it got kind of, I don't want to say it got under control with, narrators and no
hmm
sleep, but it improved quite a bit. Like the
yes,
message
yeah,
was relayed, I think, effectively. There's
mhm.
always going to be people who will still who just won't know and will go there and be like, "Oh, cool, these stories are posted for free. I can post it too and make money from it."
Yeah.
And like I've only met a few people who not met, but like interacted with a few people who when I tell them like, "No, that's not how it works." They're just like, "Well, fuck you." Like I'm gonna use your, I'm
Wow,
gonna use, yeah,
really?
dude, like some bold
What the
motherfuckers,
hell?
dude. Like I'm just like, all right, well,
Wow.
I'm just gonna wait for two more people for you to post a story about two more people, and we're gonna shut your shit down. Um,
Yeah,
yeah, man,
dude.
pretty
Oh
pretty
my
bold.
god.
But
That's
generally
that.
speaking, when I explain it to people, they're like, oh my god, I didn't know. Sorry. What
Yeah.
really pisses me off is when it's like not even narrators. And I'm not real up to date on like who the big YouTubers are now, but one for me was with the original Daughter's Drawing short story. Actually, a very popular YouTuber with at the time she had like 20 million followers or subscribers or something.
Oh
Just a
wow, that's
shit
big,
ton,
big.
just
Yeah.
massively popular. All of her videos got well over 1 million views. Um, she used Daughter's Drawings, and she I messaged her and was like, or I hit her with a DMCA, and she got back to me like immediate because I tried messaging her originally and
Yeah.
didn't hear back. Hit her with that, messaged me back literally within 10 minutes of me hitting her with the DMCA. I'm like, all right, that's kind of
Yeah.
grimy, but and then she offered me a payout. I was like, okay, that works for me. Like it was I felt for how popular the video had gotten, and like, I hate it when people say like, oh, but think about the exposure. Like, you can't pay bills with
Yeah.
exposure. But I
Yeah.
will say that, like, I did benefit from it because it was like such an enormous amount of exposure. Like, it did drive traffic to my website, which did
Oh, that's
bump up
good.
my ads
That's
and
good.
stuff. But I mean, at the end of the day, she had still used my story without permission, and she knew
Yeah.
that, and she was like, oh my god, I'm really sorry. I thought because it was on no sleep it was da 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 da, whatever. She ended up paying me,
Hmm.
and so I removed the strike, and then fucking, like, literally 2 days later, 3 days later, whatever it was, she posted another person, like a friend of mine, an author, no permission, like, new video that, like, so it's like, okay, so she definitely knew, and she just has enough money to just like eat the strikes or whatever and just pay out and keep. And I'm
uh,
like, dude, like, if, lady, if you were
that's
to just ask
yeah.
these authors, most of the
You wouldn't go
time they're going to
for
be
it.
like, yeah, sure, that's cool. And most of the time they won't ask for any money. Like,
I mean, like this is one of those times. Also, it could have been like not to like um not to like try to justify what she does, because clearly that's not a it's not okay to
right.
like more than likely what she did is like went through like 4 or 5 things in one recording session and they just all go to editing and they just roll out as things go. So more than like I would assume like she didn't do that multiple times afterward. Then like it's probably one of those things like she made the mistake one time but she'd made it all in like one session
Okay, yeah,
and
I get
then
what you're
didn't
saying.
realize.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then like she tried to learn from it afterward, but I can't speak for her. I don't know who she is. I don't, I don't know what that is, but I'm just saying, like, that would have been like the process for me because whenever I record stories, I do so in like, I'll do like 3 or 4 stories in one day. So I'll just sit down and I'll do that many stories because I have other projects that I work on also outside of just doing like YouTube.
Yeah.
So like I have like YouTube time dedicated to today, and then tomorrow we're working on audiobooks, and tomorrow we're working on indie games, and the next thing we're doing this. So like I would try to do like a condensed amount of stuff and within a single day. So maybe she learned from it, and that would be one of those things. Also, like on her would be like contacting my mod team to be like, hey, um, don't post those, like,
Yeah, right.
because like, yeah, remember that time we did those? Yeah, throw that out for now. We'll post something else. Post a short today.
Because I'm, yeah, right. Like, I would do that because at least at that point,
Yeah,
like, you're out however long it took you to read the story. But if it gets to
yeah,
that point, like, you either A, have a strike, or B, you pay a not
yeah. You're
insubstantial
still
amount of
paying
money.
more
Like,
money.
I would
Yeah,
rather lose the time, even though I value my time more than anything else. But like, I don't know, it seems like a decent trade off to keep your channel alive. And I'm,
yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I'm the person who doesn't fuck around my channel. Like, I'm not gonna like. I've had nightmares about like waking up and then finding out like one of those like Bitcoin miner things took over my channel, and then I'm like, oh god, what am I gonna do with
like, I
myself?
mean, I
Like,
imagine at your level that would be a genuine concern, like, because you got millions of subscribers, and like, yeah, man, I lose sleep over my 3,000.
well, no, like that's just this is the thing about like like my channel's how I pay for my
Of
house.
course,
I can't
yeah, for
like
sure.
like how do I pay my
That's what I'm
mortgage?
saying.
Oh god, Tesla's stealing from me. I can't. What am I to
Yeah,
do?
dude. Like, I can't imagine. And man, you say you sit down, and so, okay. This is actually where I was gonna go next. So you say you sit down and you record 3, 4 stories at a time
Yeah.
for, say, I'm trying to think of a story of mine that you did. Daughter's
Oh
drawings. It's
god.
a longer story. Let's use that as an example. Is that one, or I guess, I don't know. I'm trying to think of a way to word it. Like, how long does it take you to record a single story of average length? Let's say.
Let me take a look. So daughter's drawings was how did I do that one? I don't think I
My
did that one for you.
family has
Did I
been
do that
stalked
one?
for the last 4 years.
Oh wait. Okay.
Is your chair Marvel?
Yeah.
Fuck
it's
yes, dude.
it's torn apart, dude. It's torn
Dude,
apart.
I have a
That's 4
disgusting
years. It was
collection of them.
23 minutes.
23 minutes? Okay.
Oh, do you? Oh, dude, I'm gonna send you photos of my I have a theater in my house that it's just a room dedicated to like the crap I've got over my life.
Hell,
I have a this is not related to the questions or anything. I have a really big obsession with recreated movie props. Those are like my favorite things ever.
That's awesome.
I have, yeah, I love the idea of things from fiction being remade into real life, and I really love that. So I have those. I have a bunch of like celebrities I've met. They got their autographs throughout my life, and like I always just had them like in places, like in my office or whatever. We moved to this house. I had the room that was like, this is like my man cave room. So all of my stuff is in there. I'll send you photos of it on Facebook after the
Hell yeah,
like,
dude.
you'll see all the shit that I have. But yes, I have my marble chair with the Spider-Man eyes.
Oh, that's awesome. Dude, I like
this is so old. It's got a hole in the bottom of it for me just sitting.
I have never walked by a Marvel product that I didn't want, and most of the time I get it. Like, I have a substantial amount of my income goes to comics and comic related merchandise. It's
Oh my god, I'm a very big fan of Superman.
hell yeah, dude.
So I do the say that I love comic books a lot. I'm a very big Disney adult, which I don't think I have a lot of. Well, I do actually. Like on my desk, I actually have a lot of like Disney merchandise, Walt Disney
that's sick
stuff. And I keep Disney owns Marvel. They have consistent like recreations of Marvel things in like at the parks, and every time I go I'm like,
oh yeah, dude. I have a Mjolnir. I just got my Captain America shield back from my mother-in-law's house. Because it was over, we had stayed there for a while, and it's just been it they redid the room that we were staying in when we lived with them, and
yeah,
we had the shield up on the wall, and like they redid the room, but they redid the room around the shield. Like, I just always forgot about it because I never had like reason to go back in the room, and I was like, wait, fucking, why is my shield still the main decoration in this room?
You'll like this. So I don't know if you saw last year at California Adventure Disneyland. They did a full production of Rogers the Musical that was in the Hawkeye show.
Oh yeah.
So last year, like I told my wife about this, like it was in the summer. We got news on, because I follow a whole bunch of stuff. No, actually, I don't know if I can say that. Never mind, I'm not gonna say that. I'll tell you about that later.
Okay.
I do. I found out from like some news sources that was like, oh, the Rogers the Musical is going away at the end of the summer. So I just told my wife, like, hey, we gotta go see this before it leaves. This is a 30-minute musical at the theme park. We need to go see it before it leaves. So like, we book immediately, like, book a tour, like a 1-day trip to go to Disneyland.
That's
dedication. We go to Disneyland.
Dude.
Yeah, we go to Disneyland and go see Rogers the Musical, which if you haven't seen it, it's on. There's lots of recordings on YouTube. I think they have like some of the best recordings, or like the very last performance they ever did, which I didn't go to the last performance, but I went to go see one of them. And it's a fantastic musical. Like they did so much in the little bit of time they had. And
do they include the numbers that are like in the show? Like the songs?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay.
Yeah. I could do this all day. Where the Avengers fight Loki. Yep. It's just as cheesy too.
That's awesome.
Like everything is just as cheesy. But like there's like this amazing scene where like where it just kind of like brings you through World War II. And him going through World War II are these giant like setups of comic book covers.
Oh,
and as Steve's going through them, he like poses and the light comes on, and like he's going through that action of that comic book cover, and then it moves off to the next one, like as Star Spangled Man with a Plan is playing,
sick.
Like that musical number. It's really good.
Awesome.
I suggest you check it out.
Yeah, dude.
But I bought the Captain America shield after going to see that musical, because I'm like,
you have to.
This is such a good. Yeah, it's such a good.
Kimmy and I have gotten into Legos recently, and like. I don't know if I've ever talked about this on the podcast. We puzzle, like, we're trying to get into it, like, competitively. Because we do puzzles like a motherfucker, dude. And, like,
that's
90% of them, more than that. Like, I think we have about probably 125, 145 puzzles, something like that. And most of them are comic book related. Like, a lot of them are, like, collages of different covers and, Marvel, DC, Image, all the major houses and shit. but recently we've gotten into Legos, and like they make all the hands from Marvel. It sounds weird, but like they have like
They make
Wolverine
hands,
claws,
really.
and then the Infinity Gauntlet, and then the Nano Gauntlet from Endgame. And so we have like, and they're decent size too. Like, can't,
Yeah.
where's the camera? There it is. Like they're, you know, like they could, you could fit an actual hand in it if it had that
Oh, that's
capabilities.
cool.
But yeah, dude, it's sick. We got Star Lord's mask that we're gonna do next. Uh,
Oh, that's pretty cool. Yeah,
yeah.
I can see like the way you move over that too. Also, I completely glanced over your question now talking about
Oh,
Disney.
dude,
It's
no,
like,
like
what was
it's
it?
totally fine, dude. Like I could do this all day.
Yes.
I don't even
Um,
remember what I
yeah,
asked, to be honest with
I
you.
don't remember what you asked me. You asked me something, and then I was like, oh yeah. How long would it take me? I honestly, I think my editor works for a couple of different people. I think he says usually cuts about 10 minutes of mistakes out of my stuff. It's really I take them all in one take usually, unless like, and then whenever I stumble, I'll just retake that line, and then continue on through it. I'll do a lot of also my recordings live on my Twitch,
Mm.
and the major reason I do that is because I get distracted really easily, and like I'll just suddenly start like going down some weird rabbit hole where I'm like, oh, how did I do that voice? And then like go back to one of my videos to like listen to the voice, and then see a related video like, oh, Markiplier played anything. like it's sort of, I start watching something, and I get real distracted. But if I'm streaming it on Twitch, like people have like buttons on the Twitch stream that's like, "Hey, you got distracted talking about something." And I'm like, "Oh yeah," and I'll get back to doing something for work. So
That's awesome.
I'll do that. Yeah, there's full buttons for the audience to like tell me like, "Hey,
I'm gonna have to check
you
one of those
stopped
streams
working."
out, dude.
Like you're like,
That
yeah.
sounds cool, man. Yeah, dude.
Hey,
I'm trying to do the audiobook for Daughter's Drawings. And
yeah,
like it's fun. I like doing it, but editing. So I love video editing. Like I would do that as a career if I could get my foot in that door. Like I
yeah,
genuinely enjoy it. I like editing videos, and I like editing audio to a point, but
to a point.
dude,
Yeah,
fucking
there's a lot of
it
tedium.
really is, dude. And it's just like I will see this, you know, because I'll sit and record for like 3 4 hours. I'll get a couple chapters done, and then I look at this like I these gaps between like the waveform, and I'm just like, oh my god, I have to go through this. Like this is going to be literally like 1,000 clicks before I have what I
Yep,
want, which is a weird way to
yep.
measure it, but in my mind I'm like, I'm going to be clicking that mouse so many times, and like, I'm just like, god damn, dude, I just don't have the effort, or like the energy to do it all the time. So like hats off to
What?
you, dude. Like
No, so like I was told before, I used to do all my editing. I did all of my editing for like 4 or 5 years, and then like I started getting other people to do it, and I kept like doing it and doing it and doing it and doing it, and like I could get done about a video in every 1 to 2
yeah,
days when I was doing my own editing. And somebody also told me essentially like if you didn't do your editing and you could record over that time, how many more videos could you get done? And I was like, oh god, I don't know, like I could do like so much more if I did that. And he was like, okay, cool, so like break down like how much you make per video, and like do up your time by hours and be like, how many hours did I do editing, and this is how much you're paying yourself to do that. He goes, okay,
damn.
now like are you overpaying yourself to do your editing? Like, yeah, I guess I am. Like, cause you like break it down, you're like, cool. I'm spending like 70% of my money at that point paying myself to do the editing when I could pay an editor to do it at like
Damn,
an
that is like a
editor's rate
genuine
and
pro
not like
tip.
a. Yeah, that's like, you know, like you're paying like an editor's price to do it if you hire an editor to do it. If you're paying yourself to do it with how much, you know, like because like you are the brand, you are the voice,
Right.
you are everything. So like you're paying yourself way over the amount that you would pay an editor to do that amount of work. Not to mention, like, you're not an editor. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
when the way that I would do my editing is like, I know what my voice looks like, I know what my waveform looks like, I could cut things apart. I know when I make a mistake, I could do that. And then like I ask my editor how he does it. He's like, oh, I put in this program, and and then it auto captions the entire thing. And then I copy the original text and I put it over here. And as you read through it, I can see whenever you make mistakes because the auto caption says there's a mistake, and then I just cut it. And I'm like,
What
that's.
the fuck?
I was like, yeah, like, because like when I'm doing it, like I said, like I do a video in like 2 days, right? And he's like, no, I get it done in about 2 hours. Because it's just.
Yo.
Yeah. The thing is, like, I'm not a professional when it comes to that. I know how to do voice work.
Yeah.
I don't know how to edit stuff like he does. And
Holy
like
shit.
I'm overpaying myself to do this in 48 hours when I pay him a rate to do it in 2 hours. You know, like, because it's just that's his
crazy.
job. And like his whole thing is like that's why he works with so many people, because it's like, okay, cool, this is Spike's thing's done, send it back to him. This is Jake's thing's done, send it back to him. This is Kelsey's thing, send it back to Kelsey. Like, it's just like he just goes through it, and that's what he knows how to do. Like, it's really one of those things of like, you know, you could learn to do it, but like you're doing a lot more of a service to yourself to get somebody who knows how to do it. You know
what's crazy? Like,
yeah,
I know how to do that. I've just never considered it. I have a transcription program like that I use for a different project that I'm working on. I never thought about using it for that. And dude, it fucking timestamps everything. My mind is genuinely blown right now, dude. I'm like, I'm stealing that dude's method. Like,
I mean, like it makes a lot of sense. The only thing it's not going to do, of course, is not going to show up gaps in audio and things. I think that's what he says. At the end of the day, he really just listens to the audio 3 times. He listens to it the first time to clean it up, listens to it again to see how it feels for the gaps, and listens to it the third time to make sure it's clean, and then he sends it away.
Yeah, that's another thing that I worry about, or not worry about, that just is always in the back of my mind, is the gaps between lines. Because obviously you can.
Well, you need to see how it feels.
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
Should it be a pause that long?
Yeah, it's just because like you got to know when to pause for dramatic effect and like when not to, when it requires. Because your stuff in particular, like with all the narrations I've been listening to for the past few weeks, excuse me, you have the best, like, because you get into it, like you get intense about it, and like I like that, and like you have a good, I'm not trying to like, you know, shower you with praise and shit, but like like things I notice in your videos is where you will start going super fast to match like the I guess the pacing of the story in a way, like not even the pacing of the story, but the pacing of a specific like scene within a story, which I don't see a lot of people do. And like that really, like, I feel like I've said like 1,000 times in the past 40 seconds. I did 1,001. But no, like, God damn it. Why now I'm like conscious of it. Fuck. But you do that and it matches the pacing of a particular scene, and it really amplifies the story. And I always like that about your narrations. And I don't really know where I was going with that, but it was like, my bad. It's something I've noticed in yours more than anything, is that the intensity actually matches what's happening in the scene. Whereas a lot of narrators, who are all very good narrators, I'm not trying to take anything away from them, but there's more of just a kind of consistency throughout it, that, and consistent isn't bad, but the way you do it, I feel, adds a lot to the listening experience from a consumer point of view.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I always, like, that was one of the things about like the way that I tried to do things. When I was like going back to like when I first got started, when I was in college, I listened a lot to radio shows. I liked 1930s, 40s detective radio shows, horror radio shows, things like that. And when I started the channel, and it continued well through till now, I want the channel to be more like a radio show than an audio book. And I think being consistent and being clear and everything like that, it's really important to for an audiobook to do something like that. I'm trying to get across every single word that the author says.
Yeah.
in a radio show, I always feel like more than getting across the words that the author's written, I'm trying to get across the emotion that the author is trying to convey, and that's what I try to put into my thing. I know, like, there's a lot of people who say they don't like that too. It's like, oh, I'm trying to sleep and it's too loud, and I'm like, I get that. Like, I don't want to. I know that like it takes away from some people's experiences, but I'd like to imagine it also adds into it for other people.
Yeah.
So
This ain't your
give and
grandpa's
take on those
creepypasta
things.
narration.
Yeah. But I want it to feel like there's more to it than just the baseline.
Yeah,
stuff.
then you're just sitting in a chair reading words. Yeah. I get that
Yeah.
for sure. Actually, if I could ask some advice for
Yeah, what's
narrating,
up?
like, how do you handle, and I'm sure I've heard you do it 100 times in all these different stories, but I can't think of anything offhand. How do you do like a woman's voice or like a child's voice? Do you, or yeah, I'll just leave it at that. Like, how do you, because I'm trying in daughter's
Um,
drawings, there's me, there's Kimmy, and then, there's all these different characters, and I try to make them sound different enough, but like
yeah.
also I don't want to sound like a clown. So, like,
No, yeah.
yeah.
A woman's voice and a child's voice are almost pretty similar for what I do. Like a woman's voice is just a falsetto.
Hmm.
I'm just raising on my voice a little bit whenever I talk as a woman. I think what's most important about getting those voices is less because, like, I'm not gonna make my voice sound different than what it
Yeah.
is. I'm not like one of those voice actors that could like all of a sudden I sound like an entirely different like person.
Yeah.
A lot of my voices are just small changes to the way that I speak, and changing like cadences for a woman or changing cadences for a child is really it. There's a certain thing I got through to one other person I was working with before when I was trying to like coach them through like a voice acting thing was like um doing voices, making voices is one thing, and then voice acting is like another thing. Is to say like when I do like the egg-shaped woman, right? The egg-shaped woman is just Raz from like Monsters Inc.
Yeah.
And that's just a voice. That's not like an actual character.
Right.
So like Raz is just yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and get this done for you, and it's just a silly voice because there's no actual like emotion behind it. Raz doesn't have certain things that you have to go through when you're developing a character, which is to say, like, how would Raz sound if, like, with the way that I said before, for some characters, like, how would Raz sound if she, like, lost her parents? Which is not a certain thing that you would ever go through with that voice, because it's meant to be as, like, a joke thing.
Yeah.
But when you're going to an acting point, that's something you need to go for. Is like, well, like additionally, like if I'm going for a small child, how will the child sound whenever like the child receives like a gift on their birthday? You know, all of a sudden, like, oh, there's a level of excitement that goes there, and there's a level where, oh, the child's going to talk faster because, like, I'm so excited and I don't really know how to convey that because, like, I'm not emotionally at that point. Like those kinds of things,
Yeah.
like, that's what you want to get to when it comes down to characters. So when there's like a woman character, I really only have one woman, but like I can have an idea about how she responds whenever she's angry. She's a lot more concise when she says every single thing because she's trying to hammer in her point.
Okay.
And things like that. Like those are ways to get it, but it's just a falsetto, so my voice is just a little bit higher, but really I'm just trying to get across what I want to tell you, like that kind of thing.
Okay.
You know, like
All right, good
that's
to know. Thank you.
that's
Man.
what you want to do, and just get to like in your mind where you want to be,
Okay.
and like where you want to be with that character. Like, so I say like I only have like a few characters. Like there's like the Jeff the Killer character, there's the Eric Riggins detective, there's my normal talking voice who I use for like Jack Townsend, and then there's like girl.
Girl.
So, girl.
Yeah. Okay.
Who I need to play for any girl character.
I appreciate the advice. Hell yeah, dude.
Yeah.
So we are actually 55 minutes in, 54 minutes in. That went by crazy quickly.
Yeah.
We don't have to quit at an hour strictly. I just want to talk a little bit more about comics, dude. I'm sorry. Like, are we talking about...
No, go for it.
So,
I love comics, dude. I want to write my own comics sometime. I've been talking to Vincent Vanakava saying we wanted to write comic books at some point.
yeah, dude. I
We did the
actually.
Creepypasta comic book before. Did you? What'd you
It's
write?
called
What
The
you been
Visitor,
writing?
and it only has one issue. And to be honest, I've tried getting in touch with the artist. I want to do it again, like, because now I can actually...
Yeah.
Because we did it kind of on we ran a Kickstarter and it was successful, and I paid her. She's an incredible artist. I've not been able to get back in touch with her. It sucks. Like, I really
Uh,
want to. I'd love to do more. This is almost 4 years ago now. But yeah, it's called The Visitor. I'm doing my first convention in October, and
no, congrats. That's great.
I'm gonna have some copies of that there. But anyways, you mentioned that you are a big Superman fan. How did you get into
Yes.
Superman?
I've been a Superman since I was a kid. I love Superman stuff. There's a I don't know. Superman is one of those characters. I don't know. This is just the unpopular opinion thing, but like, a lot of people love the idea of like a normal person would not be good. But somebody else had like made a post. I think that like really explained it. Is like there's not someone who has to be thrust into a good situation because they're required to be. It just never appealed to me as much as somebody who chooses he's a good person because they can be, like they choose to be a good person at that
Huh.
point. And I think I always liked that about Superman is like everybody's like, oh well, he's too good of a person, nobody would ever be that way. It's like, why? Why wouldn't they be that way? Like, why wouldn't you just be a good person?
That
There was a line in the new Tick show that was also that way where I forget the Superman equivalent they had. And they said like, you're an alien, you're super powered. Why wouldn't you like take over us? He's like, because that's not what a good person would do.
yeah.
He's like, that's just it, dude. Like, I just want to be a good person. Why is that so bad? I'm like,
I will admit I've read a lot of Superman. I do like the character,
yeah,
but I have at times thought that he's just a little bit too perfect. And when
yeah,
I try to think of like kind of his inner turmoil, I suppose, or his complexity, I'll say, I am sometimes hard pressed to do so. But that's not to say that I don't like the character. I do. And a lot of people say that he's like overpowered, like OP or whatever, to
yeah,
quote the children. Um like
yeah,
I like that about him, dude. Like, he's just a unstoppable fucking animal. And I have found, I should have said, like, I my feelings on Superman have changed. I have found that what I like the most about the character of Superman is that, because I'm a Batman fan. I mean, I'm wearing a Batman
yeah,
shirt, obviously.
yeah, yeah. I feel it.
Um, is Superman knowing that he is unstoppable? Essentially, I mean, you throw Doomsday at him, whatever,
Yeah, yeah,
Dark Side, but is knowing that he is on planet Earth the strongest, the baddest motherfucker alive, basically, and still choosing, like you said, to be good, just
yeah,
because that's who he is. And I like that. I have kind of turned, because I used to be, he's too perfect, he's not interesting, give me someone flawed like Batman. And
yeah.
but yeah, my feelings have changed, and I very much like the dynamic between Batman and Superman. That is one of my favorite things in all of comics. Like,
Yes, the world's finest
yes,
series.
it's one of the
I'm
best
assuming
comics
you
out
must
right
have read.
now.
I agree. Yes, I think the Batman and Superman dynamic is just so fun to play with
Yeah, because they are
across like
fundamentally
every comic
different
series.
people. They have
Mm-hmm.
the same goal, but they go about it in such like the juxtaposition between their approaches to what they're trying to accomplish is fascinating. And like, it's a very
Yeah,
interesting like character study of sort of the, not even the anti-hero, because it could kind of maybe be
yeah,
argued that Batman is an anti-hero, because that motherfucker's kind of a villain, dude. Like,
yeah,
he just goes around
yeah.
town beating up mentally ill people. And like,
that's
he's just a rich
that's the
asshole who
character.
doesn't
Yeah,
know how to mind his
he's
business, dude. Like, he's a rich guy who's like, oh, I know better than everybody else. Like, that's kind of what he
that's
is.
true.
Like,
Yeah, that's actually the
like,
character.
Batman's a dickhead, dude. But like, I like him. Like,
Well, you read Kingdom Come, yeah?
oh, of course, dude. Yes.
Yeah, you read the Kingdom. Though the person that Batman becomes is very much
Oh
that.
yeah.
I'm a rich asshole who needs to control everything because I'm the only person who understands what justice really
Yeah,
means.
for sure. Have you ever read Last Night on Earth?
I have
That's
not.
kind of the. have you read like the Court of Owls
Yes,
so
yeah,
that
yeah. I read the
run
Court of
was from
Owls.
Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo. Trying to get Scott Snyder on here. He's on my bucket list. It will happen one day, damn it. Um, that run was the New 52, and that is my sorry Scott, my second favorite run of a single character. Um,
Really?
but so that run kind of led into Dark Knight's Metal, which and
Oh,
then
okay,
yeah,
yeah,
and
I know
Dark
that one.
Knight's
Yeah.
Death Metal. Last Night on Earth is the canonical ending of that story, and it takes place like I don't even like 1,000 years in the future or something, and it's I'll put it this way, like it's Batman going through a barren wasteland, like post-apocalyptic wasteland with the Joker's animated head in a carrying case, and it's just like a buddy adventure with them.
What?
It's
Hang on, what is this called? I
uh
need to read this. That sounds cool as hell.
it's great, dude. I love it. It's phenomenal. Last Night on Earth. uh Night, obviously, like Dark Knight.
Yeah, yeah,
um
yeah.
yeah, it's awesome. I think I
That
have
sounds
the
cool as hell.
yeah, it rules, dude. Like, and it's especially if you pair it with like reading that New 52 run and then Dark Knight's Metal, Death Metal, and cap it with that. Like the chronological ending to that story is sick. Um,
Oh, dude, I need to read that. I still have one of them for when the big Watchmen crossover. That was a Birthright. Was it?
Doomsday
Uh,
Clock.
Yeah, Doomsday
Yeah,
Clock. Before Birthright started up, I think is what it was. But I still needed to read that one because I still have like the big omnibus of that,
yeah,
and I never got into like really what the New 52 was at the end of it because I know that Doomsday Clock is supposed to like tie up what happened with the New
yeah. It
52.
was
So
very hit or miss.
full reboot.
I got into it as soon as
Really?
oh yeah, New 52. Yeah, because that was almost 15 years ago that started now. Um, it was the second big revamping of DC's lineup, I guess you would say. Because
Yeah.
you know comics, dude. Like
Yeah.
once you get into the multiverse, it gets so muddled, and you have so many different. Like that's Batman, but that's not the actual real Batman
The
that you've been
Batman.
reading.
Yeah.
And but they got this Batman over here who's very similar, but it's different because of this. And like it's gets messy every once in a while. So you had Crisis on
Yeah.
Infinite Earths, and that was the first big
I
crossover that
love
consolidated all these different timelines and shit, and that's a classic. It rules. And then New
Have
52
you
was the
heard?
second big one, and then Rebirth.
Wait. Oh yeah. Okay. So you're the. I would say like Crisis on Infinite Earths, Infinite Crisis. I guess those never really. They gave us a lot of different. The Infinite Crisis gave us like a lot of different multiverses, but I guess it never really rebooted anything.
Well, the thing is, like, the concept of the multiverse was there, and it was being utilized in the 80s, but
Yeah.
it had gotten so expansive, and there was no real through line to anything going on in DC. So Crisis on Infinite Earths, that took, you know, there's a Batman over here that's has been turned into a vampire and is running around murdering Dracula. And then there's a Batman over here who is, doing this, and one over here doing this, and like all these different, like one who's a Green Lantern, and like Green Lantern rules, by the way, one of my favorites too. Um, what Crisis on Infinite Earths did was it quite literally erased so many of those universes and left with I forget how many it was, 7 9.
52.
No, not even
No, wait, no, that was after the Infinite
yeah, this
Crisis.
was back in
That's
the
what
80s.
52.
Yeah. And yeah, Infinite
Yeah,
Crisis then led into New 52.
Universal Constant.
Yeah,
Yeah,
which they brought Jason Todd back by having Superboy Prime punch a hole in reality.
that was so fucking cool. I don't know. Superboy Prime is like one of my
He's
favorite.
awesome,
fucking
dude.
villains. Yeah. Okay, so I wanted to bring this up. But one, have you ever heard of graphic audio?
Graphic. Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So all the events, the DC events, they did those. That was one of the really big things that started me out as MCP, as because I fucking loved the way the graphic audio was putting together radio broadcasts. Like they were just so well done.
Yeah.
Like every single thing about them was so well done. The Foley, the characters that they cast, everybody was so good. And plus they were like, these were ones about Superman. And that's why I was like, I'm gonna listen to Superman stories. And that was one of those really big things that was like, dude, I really wanna do something like that. And when I started doing MrCreepyPasta stuff, was like I wanted it to be like graphic
Yeah.
audio, and it was really cool because like I think like 5 years ago, graphic audio or one of the actors from graphic audio launched their podcast, and they reached out to me and they were like, "Hey,
Oh,
did
that's
you want to do
awesome.
promotions for it?" And I was like, "Yes." Anything to work with graphic audio. So I was doing promotions for one of their little horror
That's so
podcasts. I think
cool.
it was really cool. Another thing, Judd Winnick
Hmm.
was the one who wrote Under the Red Hood, who brought Jason Todd. Well, I guess, yeah, brought back Jason
Yep.
Todd. I met him
What?
at the weirdest time. So, when I left I never actually had like real actor training at all until like started doing this. When I was in high school, I was a part of like the speech team,
Okay.
and I was on the speech team. I was really like good friends with like my teachers and stuff. So after I did YouTube, my teacher started messaging me like, "Hey, did you want to come back to the high school and like talk to kids? Because kids are really like interested in like doing YouTube and stuff as a career. Do you want to talk about doing that?" And I was like, "Yeah, cool. That sounds good to me." So I'd come back every year and do that. And then like the school eventually, like because my high schools are really cool, they were like, "Hey, we want to try to do a comic book convention at the high school."
Oh, that's awesome.
That's like put together by the librarians of the high school, who were really nice ladies and stuff. So I was helping them organize that, and then also appearing as like a guest at their comic book convention. But in 2020, clearly they couldn't do that anymore. So I was running all of their. They basically did it as a YouTube stream, and I was running all of their technology because
You know YouTube.
librarians are like, yeah, well, the librarians are like in their 60s, 70s, like they don't know how to do this. And I was like, look, if you want to do it, I have all this stuff set up already. Just feed them to me, and then I will run the entire thing for you. It's no big deal. And they're like, yeah, yeah, cool. So I just ran all their stuff as like a guy in the chair. And one of the guests who calls in was was a writer for Under the Red Hood, because because he wasn't there for Under the Red Hood. He's doing like this children's I don't know if it's a comic book. I think it's like a young adult novel or something like that. And that's what they brought him in for, is like talking about that.
That's awesome.
So I'm just here like silent inside of like this Skype call as like they're interviewing him for it. And I'm just like, why does his name sound familiar? I feel like I've seen him before. So like I'm like looking these things up, and like I see like Under the Red. Wait, what? This is the reason why Jason Todd came back, and like so I log into my YouTube and like go onto the live stream that's there and just start asking questions inside of the chat, because I'm like, "Do you want to talk about Batman?" And it's like, "Yeah, we can talk about
Oh,
Batman."
that rules,
Like,
dude.
yeah, so I'm like, "How did you get DC to agree to bring back Jason Todd? How did you do these things?" Because like, I mean, this is like questions I don't think like I ever get to ask.
Yeah.
Like, because like yeah, you brought back a character who was dead, and I think you were like one of like the first ones to do it within like the modern age of comics. So like, how did you convince them to just bring back a dead character? Did you have to go through like a lot of red tape, or like what did you do? He's like, actually no. Like, so I wrote up the script and I was like, who could I use? So I was like, Jason Todd might be good. So because he was a character who existed, nobody had seen him since like the Silver Age at that point, or yes, like the Silver Age at that point. So he just wrote it into a script. He presented it to DC, and they just gave it a thumbs up. So they really did not care. It's just like, yeah, cool, sounds good to me. But I think like for a good while afterward, technically did own the rights to Jason Todd as the Red Hood until DC was like bought him out.
Yeah.
Because they're just like, yeah, we want to use it for another series on its own. So here's like a paycheck, and then we're gonna take it.
That's
He's just like, yeah, cool, whatever. Because I don't have anything else to put into it. So
that's awesome. I love what he did with Red Hood. Under the Red Hood is there's such a good animated DC animated film for it, and Jensen Ackles plays.
I said Jensen Ackles did a great job. Who
also does a great Batman too. He was.
What does he play Batman?
I want to say the Long Halloween parts 1 and 2.
Real? Yeah. I didn't see those.
Jensen Ackles fucking rules, dude. He's awesome. But yeah, man, Jason Todd has become one of my favorite. He's top 5 for me, I'd say.
That was his thing. Even like when I don't know if you played. I'm assuming you did. You played all the Rocksteady games for Batman Arkham
many times.
1, 2, and 3.
I'm
Yeah,
playing it
he
again
was
right
saying
now.
like, oh, when he was saying when that game, the third one was made. Spoiler, it's the Red Hood. They had to bring him in
Oh,
to
really?
ask about accuracy for the Red Hood, so he was saying like he was
Interesting.
really
That's
cool with
awesome.
it. Yeah,
Yeah, I liked the review. I mean, like I saw it coming a mile away, and I think anybody who
yeah,
is somewhat knowledgeable on Batman lore knew it was coming. But like,
yeah.
I liked it. I thought it was a good. The only thing the only thing I think that would have made it better is if they would have at least mentioned him in previous games, which I think that's a valid, thing. But like,
Yeah.
for what they did, I thought they handled it well. And I like his DLC too. You actually get to play as Red Hood.
I didn't get to try it
It's pretty
out. I
fun.
never played
It's
any of the
short.
DLCs for the last one.
It's short.
Oh, is
Yeah,
it?
but it's fun going around. He has his own gadgets and shit. It's cool. But yo, we are actually at well over an
Yeah.
hour at this point. So I mean, we're gonna have to do this again because I feel like there is far
Dude, I
more
could talk to you
ground.
about. I'll talk to you about comic books till the cows come home.
Hell
Man.
yeah, we'll
I'll
just
be down.
dedicate the next time we do this to just comics start to finish, dude. Mr. Creepy.
Can I
Yo,
say? Can I say one thing?
please.
If anybody likes my stuff, I'm gonna plug one
Oh
thing
no,
on
I
the
was gonna say,
podcast.
dude, please tell people where they can see you. Anything you want to plug, promote, please.
Yeah, I have. So, me and my friend General Drowned are just started getting into the world of independent horror video games. We've completed our first independent horror game, which we might expand upon later on. But as it is right now, we completed it for the Godot Wild Jam. It is available for anybody to try out, download for free on MrCreepyPasta.itch.io. It's called Midnight Myths, where you play as a park ranger who is observing creatures in the wild, as well as doing your park duties to keep the place clean.
That sounds awesome, dude.
Yeah,
I will
thanks.
definitely be checking that out. And I hate to do this. When we're done, I may or may not edit this out. When I hit stop recording, don't exit out right away. It takes like 10
Don't exit
seconds.
out.
Yeah. So sorry, I should have
Gotcha.
told you that at the top, and now the ending is
No
just
worries.
ruined. So there's that. But thank you, Spike. I really do
Yeah,
appreciate your
yeah.
time, man, and I will talk to you soon.
Yeah, man. Thanks so much for having me on.
Not a problem. Later.